The pawn. This represents the majority of people. In society, pawns are everyday workers. They move slowly, have limited options, and are routinely sacrificed so the system can continue. As a pawn, you rarely realize that you are one. Life follows a straight, predefined path. Go to school, get a job, pay taxes, then die. Between these milestones, there is often a simple and fulfilling life. Friends, family, small joys. Even without seeing the larger game on the board, these emotional connections are enough for many. Ignorance, after all, can be a bliss. But for some pawns, this path is not enough. Many will try to rise beyond it, but few succeed in becoming something greater. Promotion is rare. Yet there is something more important to remember. You do not need to promote to make a difference. Alone, a pawn is weak. Together, pawns change the board and move the tide of the game itself. The knight. They move differently. They jump over obstacles and their path does not make sense until it works. That is because they are visionaries. They do not follow established lanes. They create unexpected ones. Take Albert Einstein. He leapt ahead, explaining physics in a model that was never seen before. Every move he did was mind-bending and truly exclusive to his brilliancy. In chess, the knight shines best when the position is closed, where they find paths that most pieces are unable to create. In real life, it is the same. They shine best when new paths are needed or unknowns are to be conquered. But when the board opens, when the unknowns are mapped and the chaos settles, the knight's power fades. With no wall left to jump, no surprises to exploit, vision alone is no longer enough. That is where the bishop takes over. The bishop thrives in open positions, with long uninterruptible lines of sight. It exerts influence across the entire board, without stepping into the center. In society, bishops are the institutions and ideologies that dominate once the rules are established. Education systems, media, religion, law, and culture itself are examples. They do not invent new paths like knights do. Instead, they define which paths are acceptable to walk. Their power is not in bold moves, but in consistency, reach, and repetition. From a distance, they shape thought, behavior, and morality. A bishop sees far, but only along its diagonal. It understands the world through a single framework and cannot escape it. This is why institutions feel stable, but also rigid. They bring order after disruption, clarity after chaos, but only within the limits of their belief system. When the board is open and the game is understood, society stops needing visionaries and starts listening to those who explain the rules. But influence alone is not enough to keep the game running. Belief needs structure, direction needs force. That is where the rook enters. The rook moves in straight lines, forward and sideways with absolute clarity. In society, the rook represents power structures, governments, corporations, militaries, bureaucracies, and infrastructure. Rooks do not persuade like bishops, and they do not imagine like knights. They execute. They build systems, draw borders, collect resources, and impose consequences. Their strength is control and reach. When a rook moves, everything in its path must move or be removed. They are most powerful when coordinated, locking down space and limiting options. This is why modern society runs on hierarchy, procedure, and compliance. A rook is valuable, but predictable. It depends on clear lanes to operate, which is why it relies on bishops to justify its actions, and pawns to sustain it. Alone it is strong. As part of a system, it is unstoppable. When structure is in place and control is established, the game no longer revolves around order. It revolves around power. That power is the queen. The queen combines the reach of the rook and the vision of the bishop. She moves freely in any direction, adapting instantly to the needs of the board. In society, the queen represents concentrated power, elites, oligarchs, ruling class, and individuals or entities that operate above normal constraints. Unlike rooks, queens are not limited by procedure. Unlike bishops, they are not bound to ideology. They use both when convenient. Their strength is flexibility. They can influence, enforce, disrupt, or stabilize, whatever best preserves their position. The queen is not everywhere, but she can reach anywhere. One move can change the entire game. This is why true power rarely needs numbers. It needs access, information, resources, timing. But one must remember, the queen is not the objective. She is powerful but expandable if the system survives. Her purpose is to protect the system's core, even at a risk to herself. When she falls, the game continues. When the system falls, it ends. Here lies the most important piece, the king. The king does not represent a person, he represents the system itself, the economy, the state, the order everyone else exists to protect. Unlike the queen, the king is weak. He cannot conquer, innovate or enforce. He moves slowly, cautiously, always under threat, and yet the entire game is played for him. Pawns are spent, knights burn out, bishops justify, rooks enforce, and queen risk everything, so the king can remain standing. His survival is victory, his fall is collapse. The king's power comes from dependency. As long as every piece believes the system must survive, it does. The moment that beliefs break, no amount of force or influence can save it. This is why the king is hidden, shielded, and rarely seen, because exposure is death. Checkmate is not chaos, it is clarity. It is the moment the system can no longer protect itself, and the game, no matter how elaborate, finally ends. This is society explained in chess. Or is there more? Most people believe that there is nothing higher than the king, and all power resides with him. But truth be told, it's not the king who moves the pieces, it is the hand above the board. You see, beyond the pieces, there's one final presence that is never threatened, never sacrificed, and never seen by those inside the game, the player. The player represents those who design, observe, and reset the system itself. Not participants, but architects. They do not move as pieces, and they are never bound by the rules they enforce. When a game ends, they do not lose, they simply start another. The player decides the board, the starting position, and the values of every piece. They benefit from conflict, adaptation, and repetition. To the player, sacrifice is not tragedy, it is strategy. Most pieces never realize the player exists. They believe the board is reality, the rules are natural, and the game is inevitable. Awareness is rare, because awareness threatens the game itself. The truth of society is this: the most important moves is never made by the king or his pawns. It is made by the one holding the board. So remember this: do not get distracted by the king. Look at the player beyond the board. If you enjoyed this video, do not forget to like and subscribe. And as always, glory to Negus Carlsen.